The night was supposed to be calm. Dr. Ryan Torres had checked the weather reports 3 times before taking his small research boat out into the Pacific waters. As a marine biologist, he spent most of his nights studying the strange glowing creatures that lived deep in the ocean. Tonight was different, though. He had been tracking some unusual light patterns for weeks, and they seemed strongest after midnight. Ryan adjusted his equipment on the deck of his boat. The water was still, almost like glass, reflecting the stars above. He had been doing this job for 8 years, and nights like this always reminded him why he loved the ocean so much. The silence, the mystery, the feeling that he was the only person awake in the whole world. But nature had other plans. The first sign of trouble came as a low rumble in the distance. Ryan looked up from his computer screen and saw dark clouds moving in faster than seemed possible. The weather app on his phone still showed clear skies, but the horizon told a different story. Lightning flickered inside the approaching storm. Clouds, and the rumble grew louder. Within minutes, the peaceful night turned into chaos. Wind hit the boat like a punch, making it rock violently from side to side. Rain started falling in heavy drops, then turned into a downpour that made it hard to see more than a few feet ahead. Ryan quickly started packing up his equipment, trying to secure everything before the storm got worse. The lightning came next, but it was unlike anything Ryan had ever seen. Instead of the usual white or yellow flashes, these bolts had a strange blue-green color. They seemed to dance across the water's surface, making the whole ocean glow with an eerie light. The thunder that followed was so loud, it made his ears ring. Ryan started the boat's engine and tried to head back to shore, but the waves had grown massive. Each one lifted his small vessel high into the air before dropping it down with a crash. That shook every bolt and screw. He gripped the steering wheel tightly, his knuckles white with effort. That's when he saw the lights underwater. At first, Ryan thought it might be some kind of electrical discharge from the storm, but these lights were different from the lightning above. They moved in patterns, almost like they had purpose. Through the rain and spray, he could make out shapes beneath the waves that definitely weren't natural. The lights grew brighter, and suddenly something broke through the surface about 50 yards away. It looked like wreckage, but not from any boat or ship Ryan had ever seen. The pieces were smooth and curved, made of some material that seemed to shimmer even in the storm's chaos. Some parts glowed with the same blue-green light he had seen underwater. Ryan wiped the rain from his eyes and stared harder. Among the floating debris, he saw movement. Someone was in the water, struggling against the waves. Without thinking, he turned his boat toward the wreckage, fighting against the wind and current. Getting closer was dangerous. The waves were enormous, and pieces of the strange wreckage floated everywhere like deadly obstacles. But Ryan could see the person clearly now, and they were definitely in trouble. Whoever it was wore some kind of suit that covered their whole body, but they were floating face down and barely moving. Ryan maneuvered his boat as close as he dared. The storm made everything difficult, but he managed to get within a few feet of the floating figure. He grabbed a life ring and threw it out, but the person didn't respond. They seemed unconscious or too weak to grab hold. There was only one choice. Ryan tied a rope around his waist, secured the other end to his boat, and jumped into the churning water. The cold hit him like a shock. The waves were even more powerful than they looked from the boat, tossing him around like a toy. But Ryan was a strong swimmer, and desperation gave him extra strength. He fought his way through the water toward the motionless figure. When he reached them, Ryan got his biggest surprise yet. The person he was rescuing wasn't quite what he expected. Through the clear face mask of their suit, he could see features that were almost human, but somehow different. The bone structure was more angular, and even unconscious. There was something about this person that seemed incredibly strong and athletic, but there was no time to think about it. Ryan grabbed the person under their arms and started swimming back toward his boat. The suit they wore was surprisingly light, almost weightless in the water, which made the rescue easier than it should have been. Getting both of them back onto the boat was the hardest part. The waves kept pushing them away from the ladder, and Ryan's strength was running out. But somehow, with effort that left him gasping, he managed to pull both himself and the mysterious person onto the deck. The storm was getting worse, and Ryan knew he had to get to shore fast. He laid the unconscious person on the deck, checked that they were breathing, and then focused on navigating through the chaos. The strange wreckage around them was disappearing beneath the waves, leaving no trace of whatever had happened here. As Ryan fought to control his boat in the storm, he kept glancing back at the person he had rescued. Even unconscious, they had an aura of strength about them. Their suit was made of materials he had never seen before, with patterns and designs that seemed both functional and beautiful. The journey back to shore took almost 2 hours. By the time Ryan reached his private dock near his research station, the storm was finally starting to calm down. The rain had stopped, and the lightning was moving away toward the horizon. He carried the unconscious person into his research station, which was really just a converted beach house where he lived and worked. As he laid them on his couch, Ryan realized that this night had changed everything. Whatever had happened out there, whoever this person was, his quiet life of studying ocean creatures was about to become something much more complicated. The person's eyes fluttered open just as Ryan was checking their pulse. Those eyes were unlike anything he had ever seen, larger than human eyes with a depth and intelligence that seemed almost alien. When they looked at him, Ryan felt like he was being studied by someone with knowledge far beyond his own understanding. Take 2. Rescue was complete, but Ryan had a feeling that the real adventure was just beginning. Ryan stared into those incredible eyes for what felt like hours, but was probably only seconds. The woman on his couch tried to sit up, but pain shot across her face, and she fell back down. She said something in a language Ryan had never heard before. The words were melodic, almost like singing, but he could hear the urgency in her voice. "Hey, take it easy," Ryan said softly, holding up his hands to show he meant no harm. "You're safe now. You were drowning out there." She looked at him with confusion, then tried to speak again. This time the words sounded different, like she was trying another language. When Ryan still didn't understand, she pointed to herself and said something that sounded like Zarakai. Then she pointed at him with a questioning look. "Ryan," he said, pointing to himself. "My name is Ryan." She repeated his name carefully, and even with her strange accent, it sounded beautiful. Then she said her name again, slower this time. Ryan tried to copy the sounds, and a small smile crossed her face when he got close enough. Over the next few hours, Ryan learned that taking care of an injured alien was both easier and harder than he expected. Easier because she healed incredibly fast. The cuts and bruises he had seen when he first brought her inside were already starting to fade. Harder because everything about her was so different from anything he knew. Her suit, which he had thought was some kind of diving gear, was actually alive. Not alive like an animal, but it seemed to respond to her thoughts and emotions. When she was calm, it was soft and flexible like fabric. When she seemed worried or alert, it became harder, almost like armor. The material changed colors too, shifting from deep blue to silver to green. Zarakai was obviously intelligent. She watched everything Ryan did with sharp attention. When he brought her water, she examined the glass like she was studying it. When he showed her how to use the TV remote, she figured out the basic functions within minutes. But it was clear that many normal human things were completely new to her. The most amazing thing happened when Ryan was making dinner. Zarakai had been resting on the couch, but she suddenly sat up and tilted her head like she was listening to something. Then she walked to the window that faced the ocean and placed her hand against the glass. Her eyes closed and she stood perfectly still for several minutes. "What are you doing?" Ryan asked. She opened her eyes and looked at him, then pointed toward the water. She made a series of gestures with her hands, moving them in wave-like patterns. Then she touched her ear and made the same motions again. Ryan understood. "You're listening to something in the ocean?" Zarakai nodded excitedly. She walked over to his computer and pointed at the screen. Ryan had been working on a research project about how dolphins and whales communicate across long distances. She seemed very interested in the wave patterns and sound graphs he had saved. Over the next few days, they developed their own simple way to talk. Zarakai was incredibly good at learning English words, but she also taught Ryan some of hers. She would point at objects and say their names in her language, then listen carefully as Ryan said the English word. Water was Velandra in her language. Sky was Morthane. Ocean was Velandrakai, which Ryan figured meant something like great water. He started to realize that her name, Zarakai, probably meant something important in her culture. The more they communicated, the more Ryan understood that Zarakai wasn't just different. She was from somewhere else entirely. She drew pictures to show him things that looked like cities underwater but not on Earth. She drew creatures that looked like dolphins but with hands and tools. She drew ships that moved through water and space with equal ease. Ryan's scientific mind was blown. Everything he thought he knew about life in the universe was changing. But what surprised him most was how natural it felt to have Zarakai around. Despite being from another world, she was curious about everything, helpful around the house, and had a sense of humor that translated across species. She found human food interesting but strange. She could eat most of what Ryan cooked, but she preferred things raw. Fish, vegetables, fruits. She ate them all without cooking them first. But she was polite about it, always trying to eat things the way Ryan prepared them, even when she clearly didn't enjoy it. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset, Zarakai surprised Ryan by speaking in nearly perfect English. "Your world is beautiful," she said slowly. "Your ocean sings songs I have never heard." Ryan almost dropped his coffee cup. "You can speak English now?" "I learn fast," she said with that small smile he was getting used to. "Your language is simpler than mine, but also beautiful in a different way." "Where are you from?" Ryan asked, the question he had been wanting to ask for days. Zarakai pointed up at the stars that were just becoming visible. "Very far. My people. We travel between worlds that have great waters. We study. We protect." "Protect from what?" Her expression grew serious. "From those who would harm the waters. From those who take without giving back. From those who—" She struggled for the right words. "Who make the ocean songs stop forever." Ryan felt a chill that had nothing to do with the evening breeze. "Is that why you were here? To protect Earth's oceans?" Zarakai nodded. "But something went wrong. Others of my people, they do not want me to be here. They think your people are not ready." "Ready for what?" Before she could answer, both of them heard something that made Zarakai jump to her feet. It was a sound like whale song, but deeper and more complex than anything Ryan had ever heard. It was coming from the ocean, and it was getting closer. Zarakai's suit immediately shifted to its armor-like state, and her eyes scanned the water with an intensity that made Ryan nervous. "What is it?" he asked. "Others have come," she said quietly. "But I do not know if they are friends or enemies." The strange, whale-like sounds from the ocean continued through the night, but nothing appeared on the surface. Zarakai barely slept, staying alert by the window, watching and listening. Ryan found himself staying awake too, partly from worry and partly from fascination as he watched her communicate with whatever was out there. She would place her hand on the glass and make soft sounds that seemed to travel through the water. Then she would wait, listening to responses that Ryan couldn't hear. It was like watching someone have a phone conversation, except the conversation was happening across miles of ocean using sounds he didn't know existed. By morning, Zarakai seemed more relaxed. She explained that the sounds had been from her people, but they were far away and only checking to see if she was alive. For now, she was safe. Over breakfast, she began telling Ryan more about her world and her people. Her planet was mostly covered in water, just like Earth, but their oceans were much deeper. Cities existed at every level, from the surface down to the ocean floor. Her people had learned to live in harmony with all sea life, treating every creature as important to the balance of their world. We are called the Velthani, she explained, using both hands to show the flowing movement of water. It means those who swim between worlds. We have traveled the stars for thousands of your years, finding planets with great waters and learning their secrets. Ryan was amazed. How many ocean worlds are there? Many, Zarakai said with excitement in her voice. Each one different. Some have waters that glow with colors you have never seen. Some have creatures so large they could swallow your biggest ships. Some have waters that can heal any sickness. She pulled out a device from her suit that Ryan hadn't noticed before. It was about the size of his phone, but seemed to be made of the same living material as her clothing. When she touched it, images appeared in the air above it like a hologram. Ryan watched in wonder as she showed him pictures of her world. Underwater cities that looked like they were grown rather than built, with curved walls that flowed like waves. Creatures that looked like combinations of dolphins, whales, and something completely alien, but clearly intelligent and using tools. Ships that moved through water and space equally well, their hulls rippling like living skin. Your people are amazing, Ryan said. But why are you here alone? Why not make contact officially? Zarakai's expression grew sad. My people are divided. Some believe that younger species like humans should be helped and guided. Others think that contact too early can destroy a world's natural growth. She showed him more images. These ones, darker. Planets where the introduction of advanced technology had led to wars. Worlds where species had become dependent on outside help and lost their own creativity. Ocean worlds that had been damaged by people who gained power too quickly. I was sent to study your people secretly, she continued. To watch and learn if humans are ready for contact with the galaxy. But others among my people sent ships to stop me. They believe contact with Earth would be a mistake. Ryan felt a chill. The storm that almost killed you, that wasn't natural, was it? No, Zarakai confirmed. They used weapons that create electrical storms to damage my ship. They wanted to stop my mission, but they did not want to kill me directly. Among my people, that would be a great crime. Over the following days, Ryan learned more about Zarakai's mission. She had been studying Earth's oceans for months before the storm, particularly watching how humans were beginning to understand and protect marine life. She had been especially interested in Ryan's research into how ocean creatures communicate across vast distances. Your work is special, she told him one evening as they walked along the beach. You are learning to hear the ocean's voice. That is the first step toward joining the galactic community. Ryan picked up a smooth stone and skipped it across the waves. What do you mean? All advanced species that travel between worlds have learned to listen to their planet's waters. Water connects all life. When a species learns to truly hear what their oceans are saying, they are ready to hear the voices of other worlds. She knelt down and placed her hand in the surf. Immediately, Ryan could hear something, a faint melody that seemed to come from everywhere at once. It was the ocean, itself singing. How are you doing that? He asked in amazement. I am not doing anything, Zarakai replied. I am just helping you hear what was always there. Your scientists call it whale song, dolphin clicks, the movement of currents. But it is all one song, Ryan. The planet is alive and it is singing. The first time in his life, Ryan truly heard the ocean's voice. It was beautiful and complex, filled with information about weather, sea life, currents, and things he couldn't even begin to understand. Tears came to his eyes as he realized how much he had been missing all these years of studying marine life. "This is why you think humans might be ready," he said softly. "Some humans," Zarakai corrected. "People like you, who spend their lives trying to understand rather than just use. But others," she gestured toward the distant lights of the city. "Others see the ocean only as something to take from." They spent hours that night sitting by the water, with Zarakai teaching Ryan to hear different parts of the ocean's song. He learned to distinguish between the calls of different whales, the whispers of currents, and even the slow, deep voice of the sea floor itself. As the days passed, their friendship deepened into something Ryan had never experienced before. Despite coming from different worlds, they shared the same love for the ocean and the same desire to protect it. Zarakai had knowledge that spanned galaxies, but she was curious about Ryan's human perspective on things she had only observed from a distance. She was fascinated by human emotions, particularly how Ryan could feel joy and sadness at the same time when watching a beautiful sunset. She didn't understand human art at first, but when Ryan showed her music and paintings inspired by the ocean, she began to see how humans expressed their connection to water through creativity. In return, Ryan learned about the deep philosophy of the Velthani. They believed that all water in the universe was connected, that every drop that fell as rain on Earth had once been part of the ocean on another world. They saw themselves not as explorers, but as gardeners, helping young species learn to care for their worlds before they were ready to join the larger community of space-traveling peoples. But their peaceful time together was about to end. One morning, as Ryan was teaching Zarakai how to make coffee, she suddenly froze with the cup halfway to her lips. "They have found me," she said quietly. "Who?" "Both sides of my people, and others as well." She set down the coffee and walked to the window. In the distance, Ryan could see boats approaching, military vessels moving fast toward shore. "Those are human ships," Ryan said. "Yes," Zarakai replied grimly. "It seems your government has been watching us. The time for hiding is over." The military boats were still miles away, but Ryan could see them getting closer through his binoculars. 3 large gray ships moving in formation, too fast and too direct to be anything other than trouble. Zarakai stood beside him, her suit already shifting into its protective mode. "How did they find us?" Ryan asked. "My ship's crash left energy traces in your ocean," Zarakai explained. "Your people have been tracking the signals for days. I hoped we would have more time." Ryan felt panic rising in his chest. "What do we do? Should we run?" Zarakai shook her head. "Running will only make things worse. Besides, they are not the only ones coming." She pointed toward the water near the shore. At first, Ryan saw nothing unusual. Then the ocean began to glow with that familiar blue-green light. Shapes moved beneath the surface, sleek and fast, heading directly toward the beach. "Your people?" Ryan asked. "Some of them, but I do not know which side they represent." Zarakai's voice was tense. "Ryan, I need to ask you something very important. In a few minutes, representatives from both sides of my people will be here. They will want to know what I have learned about humanity." She turned to face him, her large eyes serious and sad. "I will tell them that I have found humans who are ready for contact with the galaxy. But they will ask me to prove it. They will want to test not just my judgment, but your wisdom as well." "What kind of test?" "They will give you a choice," Zarakai said. "They will offer you technology that could solve many of your world's problems. Clean energy, medical advances, ways to heal your damaged oceans. But accepting their help will mean that humanity joins the galactic community immediately, whether your species is truly ready or not." Ryan felt the weight of what she was saying. "And if we're not ready?" "Some species thrive when they receive help early. They use the knowledge wisely and become valued members of the galactic community. But others..." She paused. Others become dependent. They stop growing on their own. Some even destroy themselves fighting over the new technology. The military ships were close enough now that Ryan could see people on their decks. Helicopters appeared on the horizon, approaching fast. At the same time, the lights under the water grew brighter and began moving toward shore. Zarakai, I'm just one person, Ryan said desperately. How can I make a decision for all of humanity? Because you represent the best of your kind, she replied. You saved a stranger without expecting anything in return. You have dedicated your life to understanding and protecting your planet's waters. You listened with an open heart when I told you about other worlds. That is exactly the kind of wisdom my people look for. The first of the underwater craft broke the surface about 100 yards from shore. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time, a sleek vessel that seemed to be made of living metal, its surface rippling like water even though it was solid. No weapons were visible, but Ryan could sense the incredible power contained within its flowing hull. Two more craft surfaced nearby, and Ryan realized with growing dread that they looked different from the first one. These had sharper lines, more aggressive shapes. The peaceful exploration vessel was now flanked by what could only be warships. The first ship carries those who support contact with Earth, Zarakai explained quietly. The other two belong to the faction that wants to keep your world isolated. They believe humans are too violent and destructive to join the galactic community. Are they wrong? Ryan asked, thinking about all the wars, pollution, and destruction he saw on the news every day. That is what you must help them decide. The military helicopters arrived first, circling overhead with spotlights blazing. Soldiers rappelled down ropes onto the beach, weapons ready but not directly threatening. Their leader, a stern woman with gray hair, approached with her hands visible but her posture alert. Dr. Torres, she called out, I'm Colonel Peterson. We need you and your guest to come with us immediately. Why? Ryan called back. Because whatever crashed in our waters a week ago has been sending signals into space. We've detected at least 6 foreign objects approaching Earth, and we believe they're connected to the individual you rescued. Before Ryan could respond, the alien vessels began moving toward shore. The water around them glowed brighter, and Ryan could hear that deep musical sound he had come to associate with Zarakai's people. The ocean itself seemed to be singing in harmony with their approach. The peaceful exploration ship reached the shallows first. Its hull flowed and changed shape, extending a ramp that looked more grown than built. 3 figures emerged, and Ryan's breath caught in his throat. They looked similar to Zarakai, but different, taller, with an air of ancient wisdom and authority that was both comforting and intimidating. The leader of this group walked directly to Zarakai and spoke in their musical language. Ryan caught a few words he had learned, but the conversation was too fast and complex for him to follow. However, he could hear the respect and affection in their voices. The warships took longer to reach shore, and when their crews emerged, the difference was immediately obvious. These aliens moved with military precision, their suits more armor-like, their expressions stern. They were still clearly the same species as Zarakai, but they carried themselves like soldiers rather than explorers. Colonel Peterson and her team watched all of this with weapons ready but clearly uncertain. Ryan realized that the human military was just as confused and frightened as he was, but they were trying to hide it behind training and protocol. The leader of the peaceful faction approached Ryan directly. When they spoke, their English was perfect but heavily accented with the musical tones of their native language. I am Vel Andrathane, speaker for the Council of Deep Waters. Zarakai has told us much about you, Ryan Torres of Earth. She believes your species is ready to join the community of worlds, but others disagree. The military leader stepped forward as well. I am Mor HFY, protector of the outer reaches. I have seen too many young species destroy themselves when given knowledge they were not prepared to handle. Humans show great promise, but also great capacity for violence and destruction. Ryan looked back and forth between them, acutely aware that Colonel Peterson and her soldiers were listening to every word. The choice Zarakai had warned him about was coming, and he had no idea how to make it. "What exactly are you asking me to decide?" Ryan said. Velandra Thane gestured toward the peaceful ship. "We offer knowledge that could transform your world. The technology to clean your oceans, heal your atmosphere, and provide clean energy for all your people. In return, Earth would become part of the galactic community, with all the responsibilities and opportunities that entails." Morkethvai's expression was grim. "And I warn you that such rapid change has destroyed civilizations before. Your people would be better served learning these things on your own, over centuries of natural development." Colonel Peterson stepped closer. "Dr. Torres, I don't know what's happening here, but you need to think about humanity's security before making any deals with alien forces." Ryan felt the weight of the decision crushing down on him. 3 different groups, 3 different perspectives, and somehow he was supposed to choose the future of the entire human race. He looked at Zarakai, hoping for guidance, but she remained silent. This choice had to be his alone. In the distance, more lights appeared on the horizon. Whatever he decided, more ships were coming, and time was running out. Ryan stood on the beach, surrounded by 3 groups who all wanted different things from him. The human soldiers with their weapons, the peaceful aliens offering incredible gifts, and the military aliens warning of dangers he couldn't fully understand. The weight of choosing humanity's future felt impossible to bear. But then he remembered something Zarakai had taught him about listening to the ocean's voice. He closed his eyes and tried to hear what the water was telling him. Through all the tension and fear, he could sense the deep, steady rhythm of the waves, the ancient wisdom of the sea that had seen civilizations rise and fall for millions of years. When he opened his eyes, Ryan knew what he had to say. "I can't make this choice for all of humanity," he said clearly. "No one person should have that much power. But I can tell you what I've learned from Zarakai over these past weeks." He looked at each group in turn. "She didn't come here to conquer or control us. She came to listen and learn. She studied our oceans not to take from them, but to understand how we're learning to protect them. That's the kind of approach that makes me think her people might be right about some humans being ready for contact." Morkethvai stepped forward. "But what about your wars? Your pollution? Your tendency to fight over resources instead of sharing them?" "You're right about those problems," Ryan admitted. "But you're missing something important. The reason Zarakai chose to study my research is because more and more humans are working to solve those problems. We're learning to listen to our planet, to protect our oceans, to work together across borders." He gestured toward Colonel Peterson. "Even our military came here ready to fight, but they're listening instead. That's growth." Velandra Thane nodded approvingly. "What do you propose, human?" Ryan took a deep breath. "Don't give us all your technology at once. That would be like giving a child adult responsibilities before they're ready. But don't abandon us either. Work with the humans who are already trying to heal our world. Let us prove we can handle small steps before taking big ones." "And if your species proves unworthy?" Morkethvai asked. "Then you'll have lost nothing by being careful," Ryan replied. "But if we prove we can grow and learn, you'll have gained new allies who earned their place among the stars." The 2 alien leaders spoke to each other in their musical language for several minutes. Ryan caught enough words to understand they were debating his proposal intensely. Colonel Peterson moved closer to him. "Dr. Torres, what exactly are you committing us to?" she asked quietly. "A chance to prove ourselves," Ryan said. "Instead of getting everything handed to us or being left completely alone, we get the opportunity to earn our place in the galaxy." Finally, Velandra Thane and Morkethvai seemed to reach an agreement. The peaceful leader spoke first. "Your proposal shows wisdom, Ryan Torres. We will present it to the full Council of Deep Waters, but such a plan would require careful monitoring. and gradual contact. Someone would need to stay on Earth to guide this process and report on humanity's progress. And someone would need to represent Earth's interests to the galactic community, more HFY added, to speak for your people and learn our ways so that when full contact comes, your world will be prepared. Ryan felt his heart racing. What are you saying? Zarakai stepped forward, her eyes bright with excitement. They are offering you the chance to become Earth's first ambassador to the galaxy, and they are allowing me to remain here as their representative to humanity. The magnitude of what they were offering hit Ryan like a wave. Everything he had ever wanted as a scientist, the chance to learn about life beyond Earth, to help protect oceans on multiple worlds, to be part of something bigger than himself, was being handed to him. But it also meant leaving behind the quiet life he had always known. I would have to leave Earth? He asked. Not permanently, Vel Andrathane explained. You would spend time learning on our ships and visiting other worlds, then return to share appropriate knowledge with your people. It would be a gradual process, taking many years. Colonel Peterson looked skeptical. And we're supposed to just trust that you won't use this arrangement to spy on us or manipulate our development? Trust must be earned on both sides, More HFY replied. That is why the process will be slow and carefully monitored. Any sign that either species is acting in bad faith, and the contact will end. Over the next several hours, the details of the arrangement were worked out. Ryan would spend 6 months of each year learning about galactic civilization, while Zarakai would work with human scientists and environmentalists to share knowledge about ocean conservation and communication with marine life. The advanced technologies would be introduced gradually, starting with methods for cleaning polluted water and better ways to understand whale and dolphin languages. More complex gifts would come only as humanity proved it could handle them responsibly. As the alien ships prepared to depart, leaving only Zarakai's repaired vessel behind, Ryan felt overwhelmed by how much his life had changed. A week ago, he had been a solitary researcher studying bioluminescent creatures. Now he was about to become humanity's representative to an entire galaxy of civilizations. Are you sure about this? Zarakai asked as they watched the ships disappear beneath. The waves. Your life will never be the same. Ryan smiled as he looked out at the ocean that had brought them together. Remember what you taught me about hearing the ocean's voice? Well, I'm listening now, and it's telling me this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. 6 months later, Ryan stood on the deck of a ship unlike anything humans had ever imagined. Through walls that were transparent from the inside but invisible from outside, he could see 3 different ocean worlds passing by as they traveled between star systems. Each planet had its own unique marine life, its own version of the oceans. Song, its own lessons to teach. He had learned to communicate with intelligent species that lived in methane seas, had helped negotiate a peace treaty between 2 worlds whose inhabitants disagreed about fishing rights in shared waters, and had gained knowledge that would help Earth's oceans in ways he was still beginning to understand. But the best part was, knowing that back on Earth, Zarakai was working with marine biologists, teaching them to hear the voices of whales and dolphins in ways that were revolutionizing human understanding of ocean life. The partnership they had formed was growing into something that would benefit both their species for generations to come. As Ryan prepared to return to Earth with new knowledge to share, he thought about that stormy night when he had pulled a drowning stranger from the sea. He had expected nothing in return for that rescue, but the reward he received was beyond anything he could have imagined. He had gained not just a friend from another world, but a purpose that connected him to the entire universe. The quiet marine biologist who had once studied alone in his research station was now a bridge between worlds, helping to guide humanity toward its destiny among the stars. And it all started with a simple choice to help someone in need.